So in today's video, I just thought to come into your space and share with you on how to make your meaning clear, right? Because let's be very honest, the essence of communication is to make sure that the message is passed across, not just you dishing out information, right? So it's very important to make sure your meaning is clear, right? If your meaning is clear, you have the chance of you getting your message across. Right? So very quickly, I want to share some tips, some points that will help you making your meaning clear and ensuring that the message is passed across. So without any further ado, jump right in. Number one is know exactly what you want to talk about. Right? So what that simply means is your thoughts can be scattered. Right? If your thoughts are scattered, your message will be too. Right? So you have to know exactly what you want to talk about. Right? And one way to know exactly what you want to talk about is to ask yourself a simple question. If there was one message I want my audience to take out of this, what would that be? If there's one major information I want my audience to take out of my talk, what would that information be? Right? This helps you narrow it down and make your meaning clear. Right? Narrow it down. Every analogy, every point, every example, every story you tell, it's just to make sure that that point comes alive. Right? So you ask yourself, if there's one message I want my audience to take out of this, what would that message be? Then also, there's a question you can also ask yourself to check if you really know exactly what you want to talk about. And it's a 5-year-old test. Can I explain this to a 5-year-old and they get it? If I was to be presenting this, or if I was to be talking to 5-year-olds, would they be able to understand what I'm trying to pass across? If the answer is no, it means you don't know it well enough. And obviously, that would affect your message being passed across and making your meaning clear. So, first you ask yourself, if there's one point, one thing I want my audience to pick out of this, what would that be? This helps you narrow it down, and all your points, for example, everything you do within your talk, is just to make sure that that point is passed across. And also, the 5-year-old test. If I was to be explaining this to children, would they get it? Right? And this is not you checking for children, or this is not you saying, okay, you are checking that, or you're preparing for children. No, it's just checking for simplicity and clarity. Like, because clarity brings impact. Right? So you're checking for clarity, not, okay, you want to speak to children. No, you're checking for simplicity. Right? So know exactly what you want to talk about. Right? Number 2. Use simple and direct language. Right? So don't fall for the trap of wanting to sound smart or showing that you have big words in your vocabulary. Right? Because if you really consider what communication is all about, it's actually taking something very complex and making it very simple. Right? And making it simple. That means simplicity is not weakness, it's strength. So that means you don't have to fall for the trap of wanting to sound smart or show that you have a lot of big words in your vocabulary. No. The simpler the better. Because you know, at the end of the day, the aim you're trying to achieve is that the message is passed across. Not to show that you are so smart or you have big words in your vocabulary. Right? So use simple and direct language. Like for instance, instead of saying, let me show you, we are going to teach you how to mitigate communication breakdown. You can say, I'll show you how to avoid mistakes when talking. Right? So I'm saying, I'll show you now. Let me show you how to mitigate communication breakdown. You can make it simple. Right now, I'm going to show you guys how to avoid mistakes when talking or when communicating. Because at the end of the day, it's to make sure that the audience gets it, right? To make it as simple as possible. Number 3, structure your message, right? Nobody follows unstructured thoughts, right? If your message is not structured, it will be hard for your audience to follow you and for them to stay with you mentally throughout your talk. So as much as possible, make sure your message is structured. There should be a roadmap with which your message unfolds, right? So you can go, okay, I'm going to tell them the problem. then I show them the solution to that problem, then I can wrap it up with why it's all important. Whoa, you got your roadmap, right? Problem, solution, importance. Right? So you can start by telling them the problem with a great opening, you hook their attention, then you continue telling them the problem, then the solution. And that's the body of your message, the solution. Then you wrap it up with why it's all important. And from there, you can draw your call to action. This is why it's all important, and this is why you should take the necessary action, right? You just give a call to action. So there should be a roadmap, a flow with which your message unfolds, right? This helps your audience to stay with you mentally and follow you throughout your talk. Number 4, right, is repetition. Repeat key ideas, right? Repetition is not boring, it is clarifying, right? Repeating key ideas brings clarity. It doesn't bore your audience, it actually brings clarity, right? So don't feel uncomfortable repeating your key ideas. Right? You should actually be even more intentional on repeating your key ideas. As a matter of fact, repeat it at the start, say it in the middle of the talk, and before you wrap up, say it again. Right? Because the more you say it, the higher the likelihood of it sticking with your audience. Right? Saying something just once, there is hardly any possibility of it staying with your audience. Right? Say it as much as possible. Right? Don't feel uncomfortable repeating your key ideas. Because within your talk, lots are common. Somebody can receive a phone call, some distraction here and there. So the more you repeat your key ideas, the higher the chance that your audience are going to get it. So don't feel uncomfortable. The more you say it, the higher the likelihood of it sticking with your audience. Right? Saying something just once, there is hardly any possibility of it staying with your audience. Right? Say it as much as possible. Right? Don't feel uncomfortable repeating your key ideas. Because within your talk, lots are common. Somebody can receive a phone call, some distraction here and there. So the more you repeat your key ideas, the higher the chance that your audience are going to get it. So don't feel uncomfortable repeating your key ideas. Just like makes me want to think of when I used to be a children teacher, right? In teaching children, you can say, okay, there's one point we want to pass across to the children. There's one point we want to pass across to the children. You can use a lot of tools, a lot of things, just to make sure we pass one message across. Right? You can say a lot of things, different ways, but we want to pass across just one message. So don't feel uncomfortable repeating your key ideas. Remember, the aim of your talk is to make sure the message is passed across. And the more times you repeat your key ideas, the likelihood of you achieving that aim. Number 5, use examples and analogies. Right? Don't just explain away or just keep talking. Use analogies that makes it stick. I'll give you a good example. Instead of saying data is powerful, why not try this? Netflix uses data to suggest your next movie. Whoa! You know, with what I just said, I'm just giving your audience a reason to care. Now, when you say data is powerful, okay, that's true, but I don't care. But you say Netflix uses data to suggest your next movie. Whoa. Because most people in the audience, obviously, most of them will Netflix. You're like, really? How do they do that? Tell me more. You already caught their attention, right? So use analogies. Because when you do that, you give the audience a reason to care and you really win. So don't just explain away. Use analogies, use examples that make your message stick. So over to the next point, number 6. Eliminate filler words and do away with rambling. Rambling and filler words, do away with them. For rambling, what causes rambling is unnecessary points that does not align with the essence of your message. Right? You trying to fill up space and fill up time. So instead of you packing a lot of unnecessary points that does not align with your message, just trim your message down to its essence. Your necessary stuff, do it with them. Right? So make sure what you have to offer is the essence of your message, not your necessary stuff. And don't get me wrong, this does not take away the piece of volume or you iterating your points and having a long talk. No. The more the better actually, right? But Do not, because you want to fill up space, gather a lot of unnecessary stuff. That will lead to rambling. You seeing a lot of meaningless stuff. That's for rambling, right? Then for filler words, silence is the answer, right? Instead of you rambling, silence. Because silence is like, what I just said is important, but what I'm about to say is very vital. Silence is a powerful tool. So silence doesn't make you awkward. It's always not awkward. It's actually very powerful. Now let me just paint a scenario. Imagine you want to give an example and use your chain of thoughts. Instead of saying, okay, let me give you examples. No. Why not try this? I'll give you an example. You're trying to pick your thoughts together. Just decide Netflix uses data to suggest the next movie. So instead of saying, I give examples like, now, I'll give you an example. You pause. Right? Instead of you just using filler words now. So, eliminate filler words, silence instead, and also do away with rambling. Trim your message down to its essence. So, I will down to a final point. Use verbal signposts. Wow, very powerful. Verbal signposts. These ones are like direction to clarity. It's when you give your audience a pointer to clarity, right? A good example is you saying stuff like, here's the main point. I'll give you an example, right? When you use statements like that, what you're conveying to your audience is, now, I want to simplify it. I want to make you better get it. Right? So statements like, here's the main point. You're reading your audience's in. I'll give you an example. I want to further buttress the point. I want to water it down for your understanding. So use verbal signposts, very powerful. It helps make your meaning clear and it gets your audience attention. Especially when you've established at the start why what you're talking about is important. So verbal signposts are very powerful. I'll give you an example. Here's the main point. Here's what I want you to take out of this. Verbal signposts. So these are the 7 points on making your meaning clear. Very powerful, right? First, you know exactly what you want to talk about and test if you know it. What's that one point I want my audience to take out of this? Right? Then, can I explain this to 5-year-olds and they get it? A good way to text if you know exactly what you want to talk about. Then use simple and direct language. You don't need to sound over it. Make it as simple as possible. Simplicity is not weakness, it is strength, right? So no need to sound overly smart, but you have good words in your vocabulary. So then also structure the message. There should be a flow, a roadmap to which your message unfolds. Then repetition, repeat key ideas. Repeat your main point so that your audience can get it. The more you say it, the more they get it. You can even say one thing as many times as possible in different ways. And also use examples and analogies, right? That helps your name stick and give your audience a reason to care. Netflix uses data to suggest your next movie. Instead of data is powerful, right? You give them a reason to care. And eliminate filler words. Silence is more powerful. As a matter of fact, silence makes you look skillful. Even when you lose a train of thought, the audience will not even know. You should know how to use your powerful, right? Even when you lose a train of thought, the audience will not even know. You should know how to use your powerful, right? Instead of filler words like silence, then avoid rambling, trim your message down to its essence. Then finally use verbal signposts. Point your audience to clarity. Oh, I want to simplify this now. Here's the main point. Here's what I want you to take out of this. I'll give you an example, right? Verbal signposts. So yeah. Because communication at the end of the day is making sure your message is passed across. And you must make sure your meaning is as clear as possible so that your message can be passed across. So I hope you got value from this video. If you did, do it to like, drop a comment, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I drop a new video. So see you in the next video. Cheers.